Halloween is approaching, and maybe you want to make a few things to add to your Halloween decor. I've already made a Halloween video set for release the Saturday before Halloween, but had problems with what should have been easy, the pumpkins of all things. So here's a separate video on how to construct a variety of pumpkins. It gave me some practice too. The first pumpkin I'm going to do is I call my basic pumpkin. So all you need to do to start it off is to draw an ellipse like that. And then your fill, color fill, is going to be orange. Right now it's white and the circle is bound in a black stroke. But we don't want that. So I'm going to go over here to my swatches and I'm going to cheat a little bit because I have these Halloween swatches that I did before for my Halloween video, and I'm just going to pick this orange because it's really a lot easier. I really don't like the shade, so I'm going to go over here and adjust the shade until I get an orange color that I really want. Most pumpkins aren't like orange, but let me see if I can't get something that I like. And I think we'll do, ooh, I don't like that. I think we will do that. Let me see. Let's see what else we have here. That's recent. And let's see what's over here. Come on. Go over here to colors. There's orange. And I think I'm going to stick to that. Most pumpkins, you'll notice, it seems like they have parts to them. So what I'm going to need to do is to make some parts to my pumpkin, and it's going to be 5 parts in all. So I will go Control J, 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 and J, and I should have 5 ellipses down here. And if you look over here, I do have 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one that's hiding. Wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, if I have an extra one, I'll just get rid of it. Okay, now the one that's on the top is going to be the front one. So I'll move that out, and move that out, and move all these out. Oh, they all need to have, I wonder why they don't have a stroke on them. They should, oh, that's why. They should have, all of them should have a stroke on them. So we'll need to do that. Not a lot, just so that we can see that there's a division in our pumpkins. And that one. And that one. And we'll be moving them all out. To make sure we have 5 of them, that's all we need to have, and then we can just delete the one that's left over. Okay, we can delete that one. So get rid of you. So we're going to have one that is in the front and 2 that are underneath. Like that. So all you need to do to make sure that the one you want is in the front is just to check over here and take a look at the layers panel, and you'll be able to see that the layers panel, that the one on the top, see, is that one. So the one on the top is on top of all these others. So it should be on the top and hiding the other layers. Then all you have to do is to adjust them so that your pumpkin has separate parts. You don't need to make these parts perfect because most pumpkins aren't. As a matter of fact, pumpkins are out already. Right now it's October the 15th as I make this video, and it is close to Halloween, but there have been pumpkins out, it seems like, since July. But anyway, here is my pumpkin. I'm going to make this a little bit narrower and move this in a little bit more until I get the shape of the pumpkin I want. Okay, so that's how you make your pumpkin body. And then click off and see if it really looks like a pumpkin to you. That needs to move down. Okay, so we have everything ready to go. I would really rather like this stroke to be a little bit smaller. Let's see what happens if I make it a 1. I just want an outline. Yeah, that's what I want. So I'm going to make my stroke 1 pixel for each of these. 1 pixel. And over here, 1 pixel. And see if we have what we need. Oh, we don't. This one needs to be 1 pixel. So now they're all pretty uniform, just when I told you you didn't have to be uniform. Okay, so adjust this a little bit, and so now we have our pumpkin shape. Alrighty, now we need our stem, and that's not going to be too difficult because all we have to do is to go over here and get the rectangle tool and just draw it in like that. Our stem needs to be behind the pumpkin, so we'll need to move it down to the bottom like that. And then I want a color for my stem, so I think I am going to go to the swatches and pick a green type color like that, and then go back to color and move my HSL sliders around so I can get it to be a little bit darker. Okay, now that looks kind of fakey, so I'm going to go over here and press Convert to Curves. Go to my node tool and pull this around so I can make it look a little bit more like a stem and not just like something that you kind of drew on. Okay, I'll make it go down a little bit like that, over like that, make it a little taller up here, and so on until I get something that I like. I would like to have this be a little bit more curved. So I clicked on that so I would get some handles, and pulling on the handles is what really makes you curve everything when you're using the node tool. So remember that. If you want to make it look more curvy and less like you have just drawn hard lines, then pulling on the handles will make it a little bit more roundy. Okay, so click on that. I need some handles there, and pull down on the handle, and so on. Pull down on the handle, and so on. So we get something that looks sort of like a stem. Let's click off of that and see what it looks like. I hate that, so I'm going to go back in. I know exactly what I hate about it. I need to move that up like that, click off of it, and out like that, and until I get something that I'm really liking, and I think that's good. Okay, now I want to give it a little bit of roughness, so I'm not going to do anything spectacular. All I'm going to do is go over here and select the pencil tool, and then with the pencil tool selected, I'm going to make sure that my stroke is black for my pencil tool, and that this is nothing. So I want my stroke to be black. Let's take a look and see what the stroke is, and maybe one pixel is good enough. We'll see. And all I'm going to do is just draw some lines like that, like that, like that. So we'll have some lines and give it a little bit of a rough look, like it's got some ridges in them. So I'll put that over like that and click out of that and see if we have our little lines, and then leave it like that. Okay, now this pumpkin needs a face. I'm not going to get too fancy. After all, I did say this was a basic pumpkin, so I just selected the rectangle tool. I'm going to draw one eye with my rectangle tool, and for the color, I'm going to have a fill of black, like that. So I'm going to have a fill of black, and I want it to be flipped around, so I'm going to go up here to flip vertical and flip it upside down, and make it a little bit wider, a little bit down, and then we're going to do that and then move it over here to where we can get an eye over here. Then I'm going to go Control J so I can get another eye, because our pumpkin has two eyes, and flip it around again. So I'll get our other eye over here, and then use the rectangle tool again. Well, actually, make another copy, Control J, so I can get another copy and flip that down and turn it around so I can get the nose and adjust it to where I'm going to get a nose out of it, like that, and do my adjustments so I'll get some kind of a face. My last pumpkin, I did two of these so I would get like a double nose, but I'm not going to do that this time. So now we have that much on our pumpkin. Now our pumpkin needs a mouth. The simplest way to do this, and since I call this the basic pumpkin, I'm going to use the pen tool for that. And I'm going to make sure that my fill is no fill and that my stroke is set to black. Let's see what I have my stroke set to. Oh, that might show up. Then I'm going to take the pen tool and just do this. Go click, 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 and click. And then I'm going to escape out of that so I can get out of my pen tool and go over to the stroke width and then turn it up until I get the mouth width that I want. So that's how you can take a simple stroke that anybody can do. You don't have to draw a fancy mouth for this, and then give our pumpkin a mouth. So now let's click off of this and see if we have anything we want to move around. I just have this. I'd like to make the eyes a little bit wider, so I'm going to do that. And take a look at that. Move the mouth, well, make this a little bit narrower. So I'll do that and move our nose over a little bit so it's centered, and so on. So here is a basic pumpkin that anybody can do if you can use the triangle tool, the ellipse tool, the rectangle tool, and then convert to curves and use your node tool to fiddle around with it. So that's really all I did here. Now what you need to do so you can move it all around is to take this and select everything. So you go Control and select all of it. Make sure everything is selected. And once everything is selected, make sure everything is. We don't want to miss anything. Okay, so everything is selected, and then right click on it and then go Group. Now if you remember from my previous videos, you can't select all this and just click Add, because what will happen if you click Add is that all the lines there will then not show up, because it's just adding the shapes. It's not adding the outlines that are in the shapes. So that's how you get your pumpkin. See over here how it's in my group, and you can move it around and you have your pumpkin shape. So give this basic shape a try, and then you will be able to do other kinds of pumpkins. You're only limited by your imagination. The next pumpkin I'm going to make, I'll call the mean pumpkin. That's because this pumpkin is going to have a different facial shape and facial expressions. And we're also going to put a hat on this little guy. Now we're going to start off with the pumpkin pieces that I had with the first pumpkin that I didn't feel like we had to go through all that again, and you'll see that I have all my ellipses down here, and I have put them all together in my pumpkin pieces. I want to give this pumpkin an elongated facial shape, so I'm going to be selecting the node tool, and then I want to select the ellipse and convert to curves, and I'm going to be elongating these pumpkin pieces. And so it's going to end up being fat on the bottom and skinny on the top. So each one of these is going to convert to curves. The handles will make it keep a smooth type of thing, so you won't have any hard edges or anything like that. Okay, so we're going to have that like that. You might be wondering why I just didn't group all these pumpkin pieces together and then elongate the whole thing, but it doesn't work that way. You're not going to be able to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and do each one like that, and then we're going to make this one kind of skinny and move this one in, and then moving the handles will move the fat part down and give him a fat butt, so to speak. The node tool, convert to curves, and pull that up like that. I'm going to pull that in a little and like that, and we're just going to be adjusting this so that we will have all of our pumpkin pieces to where it's extended up like that. Well, that's a little bit weird, isn't it? Okay, I think I'm going to move that out a little bit, move this in, and so on. So we need to, I think I'm going to make his head a little bit higher, like that, and like that, and like that. Okay, now let's get out of this and see what it looks like. I think this should be probably a little skinnier, especially at the top. Pull that in, pull that in. Oops, don't want to do that. So if we get out of line, we can always go back to using our handles. Oh, there's the handle. I was looking for you. And here we might have one too many. If we have one too many, we can always delete it. So I will delete that node to see what it looks like. And there we go. Remember, if you want to have a round node where you can change the shape, you can double click on it if it's still a square one. So you can get all that back to where you want it. So now I have it where I want it. We're just going to have a long pumpkin head and a big bottom on this baby right here. Now I'm going to form the eyes. That's not going to be too hard because I'm going to do that using the segment tool. And there's one eye with the segment tool. We're going to have a fill of black, and then I made the mistake before of shaping the eye before copying this eye and then shaping it, but this time I'm going to make sure that I shape it and then I'm going to copy it, because if I don't, then I'm going to have two eyes that look weirdly different, and I really don't want that. So I want to pull this around and see if I can't, oops, make him look. Let me get out of there. Pull that eye down. I'm not really sure why this node is, there we go. I try to use my nodes as much as possible because I really want it to be fat over here and then narrowing in over here. It's really hard to see it until we're finished with it. And I will pull this in, and then I think we're going to have our eye that looks like this. Whoops, don't want to do that. So I'll just adjust it until I have the mean shape that I want. So there's my mean shape on my eye. I'd really like to have this rounded a little bit. There we have our mean eye. So now we have our eye, and we have to have two eyes, so I'm going to go Control J and copy that eye and move it over here, and then flip it so that now we have two of them. This is a little bit too big, so I'm going to make them a little smaller. Now one thing I want to do is I don't want them to be like that, but I would really like to have them flipped like that. So flip it upside down like that, because the next thing I want to do is I want to leave enough space for his eyebrows. Now I need a nose. So for his nose, I'm going to use the teardrop tool. Put a teardrop there. Flip it upside down and make a copy. And we're going to have a nose that looks like that. Have his nose look kind of like that. And we need to put some eyeballs on this baby. So I need another segment tool. Use a segment like that. And we're going to fill it with a color of green. Turn it upside down and move it right there. So now we have his eyes, and we're going to make another copy. I move his other eyeball over there like that, and then I'm going to make it a little bit wider like that. Okay, so now we have our eyes, our eyeballs, and now I'm going to make his eyebrow. What I'm going to do for the eyebrow is to use the pen tool for this. So I want to click on the pen tool. I don't really want anything as far as a fill, but I do want a black line, and I don't want it that long. I want it about 1 point, so at least I can see it, and then I'll decide later. And this pressure, I want to go reset because I'm going to show you what I'm going to do about the pressure. I'm going to start up here and just go click and pull that out, and then go click and pull that out, and then click down here and pull that out, and so on, and go up to where he's kind of got a frown. We can always adjust this later. This is one of those things that's fun to do because it's not supposed to be perfect actually. And then I'm going to pull that down like that, and then like that. So that's what we have so far. I'm going to get out of my pen tool so I can actually click on the node tool and see what we have as far as the line. So there's our curve, and there's our line. And let's go to stroke and see how thick we want our stroke to be. I can make it thick enough so that I can fix some of this stuff. I want the brow to be right down here, and then this to be kind of rounded like that, and then this needs to be down. So we need to fix it to where it's down on his eyebrow like that, and then where his eyebrow goes up, and so on. Okay, but we want it to be squiggly like that because what we're going to do is to make it look more squiggly like we just drew it, is we're going to select this and then go up to stroke and click on, it's right now it's set at 2.5 point, but I don't necessarily want it at 2.5 points. I want to fix the pressure. So right now the pressure is the same all the way. That means it's the same, the line is the same thickness all the way around. But I don't want it that way. I want it to be different in pressure. So I'm going to make a click right there. I think I am. Well, hey, come back here. And I'm going to start moving this around to where I can make the line a different thickness. And click on there so I can make the line a different thickness. And this comes out different every time because what's going to happen, and then let's click on the width so we can see what it looks like. Come on. Because I want the pressure on each part of the line to be different. Let's click out of there. See how it's thinner over here and thicker in here? So by moving that around, let's move this one down and see what happens. We can have a different thickness on our line. So that it's going to look kind of like that it's a different wiggle. So right now this right here is in the middle of the line, and these ends are this thickness, and this is the thickness on the brow, and so on. So if I want it to be very thin on the end, then I'll just move that down. If I want it to be thick, I'll move it up. If I want it to be different, I'll move that down. If I want it to be thin in the middle, I'll do that, and so on, until we get the line difference or thickness that we want. So basically, what I'm doing is just playing around. So now we have, let's something that looks like that. And of course the part that's on the eyebrows you're not going to see. So once we get to what we want, we can see if we like that. So let's get out of here and see what it looks like. And right now we've got it really thick in the middle and thin on the edges and so on. So our lines are going to look like that. So that's his eyebrows. And now we need his mouth, and we're going to do the same thing with the mouth. We're going to start over here and click and pull and go around and pull and go around and pull. And it's sort of going to be squiggly because remember, this is going to be our mean pumpkin. And pull and around and pull and over like that. Okay, we have that. Let's click out of this to take a look. Now see how this is not the same width all the way across? That's because that the stroke settings, and you can see those up here, are the same settings as we had up here. So if we wanted to change the pressure, we're going to have to pull it down and change it. Like if we were going to make that thinner on the edge, then we would do that. If we wanted it to be thicker, we're going to do that, and so on. But I think I want to keep it to where it's different all over. So I'd really like it to be thicker on the edge and thinner in the middle, but I just don't want it to be the same all over. So I want it to be a squiggly thing. So now I have the mouth. Now I'm going to put in a few teeth. So I need the triangle tool. Make me some teeth. Color. The fill is going to be black for our tooth. and move our tooth down here. That tooth is too big. And then go J, so I just duplicated a tooth. Move it over here. Flip it upside down. I need to flip this one upside down. That's not the way a tooth is going to go. So there's a tooth. Control J so I can get me another tooth, and I will put another tooth over here. Flip it upside down and then see if it's lined up, and of course it isn't. And there we go. So we have our mad pumpkin with the squiggly brows, the mean eyes. Okay, now there is our pumpkin. I am going to go over here, move the nose over a little bit, like that. Now we're going to put a hat on this guy. That's not really very hard. All you need is the triangle tool and the rectangle tool. But we're not going to leave it like that. We are going to select that, convert to curves, and we're going to make our hat scrunched up like that. And this, convert to curves, and we're going to make our hat have a brim. Click, click. Move the handle down, so it'll do that. Make sure I've got this handle so it can have a brim, and like that. So basically you're softening it up by using the handles. Okay, now let's click out of there and see what we have. I think that's going to be okay. Now on the brim, we need not a black outline, but we need an orange one. So I'm going to put an orange outline on that and take a look and see how thick it is. But we don't want this. It's got that pressure all the way around, and that's why it's not even all the way around. So we have to go down here and say reset. So it will have the same thickness all the way around. Okay, now we have to have a band, I think. We need to dress it up, so I'm going to put a band on it. And I'm going to have an orange band. And I'm going to convert it to curves. That doesn't look very orange. Okay, and move it down. Click, click. Move it down here. And node tool. Move that in. And node tool, move that in. And line it up so that it looks like the band is on our hat. Now we can get out of here to see how much it's lined up. A little bit like that. Okay, so there's the band on our hat. I don't want that, so there we go. And let's see what our hat looks like. Okay, so there's our hat. Now the last thing I want to do is I want to put some pencil marks on this hat. And I want them to be white pencil marks, so I change that to white. And I'm going to go draw that. Draw a pencil, like that. But I don't want them to be that thick, so I need to go to stroke, turn it down. Turn that down. And turn that down. I'm just adjusting the thickness of my little sketchy things on the hat. Okay, so now we have marks on our hat. So now we have a hat and we have a pumpkin. So we need to have our hat be all one thing. There's where the hat starts. Shift, go up, select the whole hat, right click and group. So now we have a whole hat that moves around. And so I will call that hat. Then I'm going to select this, press shift, go all the way down, and select the last curve, and we've selected our pumpkin, right click, and select group. And we have our pumpkin that moves around. Now if you change your mind about any of this and you still want to adjust our pumpkin, you still can. All you have to do is open up the group and select the thing that you want to alter. So like if you wanted to, I forgot what this triangle is, if you want to do that, well that's the tooth, I don't know why you would want to do that. But anything you want to alter, all you have to do is to select it and then you can do something with it. See? At least when they're grouped you can move them around. Alrighty, so now we have our hat and we can place it on top of our pumpkin and adjust the size of the group. Having it as a group is nice because then you can adjust the entire shape of it. And we'll put it on our pumpkin and see how that looks. And there we go. There is our mean pumpkin with a hat with the mean eyes. This is the last pumpkin. This is going to be my 3D pumpkin. I already have the pumpkin parts from the last video. This really isn't going to be that difficult, but it does give a good effect once you're done. So I'm going to start out with the first ellipse, and I'm going to add some effects. So I'll go up here, down here rather, and select FX, the effects, move it to the side so I can see it, and then I'm going to add a 3D effect. So add the 3D effect, and remember that you have to not only click the box, but you have to select the whole bar because that's what makes the menu items pop up and you can see them. With the 3D effect, I will make the radius 14 points and have a gray specular color. Down here we have specular color. That's going to be gray. So I'll need to go down to the swatches and select gray. So gray will be the color, and see you're starting to get the 3D already. And a white ambient color, I think we already have that. So I'll need to get out of there. White ambient color, so gray specular and white ambient. And I'm also going to add an outer shadow. So I'll click the box, select an outer shadow with a radius of 9 pixels and an offset of 4 pixels and an opacity of 50%. It's already set there, so we have everything that we want. The blend mode will be multiply, so make sure you're on multiply, and then you'll close the box. So there we have, let's click off of it so we can get a better look. So there we have our 3D effect on just one of the pumpkin layers. Now we don't have to do this on every layer. All we really have to do is to take the FX over here and drag it down to the other layers and see how it pops up. So just drag each of them down until we get that effect on every one of them. So that's all there is to it. And now you have the body of your pumpkin, which is 3D. So now that I have all my ellipses done, I'm going to group them all. So I'll click on the top one and then press Shift, go down to the bottom, click on the bottom one, right click, and press Group. So now they're all grouped together and you can move them around, as you can see right there. Now I'm going to need a stem, so to do that I'm going to use the rectangle tool and draw a stem. This one is going to be a little longer than the other ones, and on this stem I want to fill it with a green color, so that right now it's not filled with anything. So I'm going to go over and fill it with a green color. We'll be changing that in a minute, but I want to give it a green color. Then I want my stem to be behind the pumpkin, so I'll need to move that down so that it is. And now that it's behind the pumpkin, and let's move it up like that. Okay, so I'll need to select Convert to Curves because we need to shape it. So I have the node tool selected, and we can shape it. You can add nodes so you can shape it like that. And that will keep it from being such a sharp stem. Move that up, and I'm going to be pulling this up and down a little bit. So we'll have something that looks like that. Oops. And to make it bigger or make it more rounded, remember to pull on the handles. That will do it for you. Let's thin this out a little bit. And thin the bottom out a little bit. And just kind of massage it a little until you get the effect that you really want to have. Something like that is going to be good. So we've got a thinner stem than a last one, and it's going to be kind of a curvy. Now we'll put some effects on this too. So again, I'm going to go down here and press FX to put some effects on it because I don't want it to be that flat looking. So I'll give it, again, just like the pumpkin, 3D effect with a, let me see, we need to give it a color. Okay, I'm going to go with specular color of green and ambient color of green. So we still have the green, and notice it's 3D right there, and we want the radius to be 5 pixels. So it was on 5 pixels anyway, so you have that. Okay. But I also want a gradient effect. I don't want this to be all green. And since it's already set on the gray gradient effect, it's going to wind up that way. But it's not going to be for long. We have a linear type right now, and we're going to keep it like that. But we want the gradient effect color to be green on part of it. But over here, what I would like is for my color to be kind of a brownish color. So the gradient goes from green to brown, and then you can adjust it whichever way you want with this slider, like that. And I think I'm going to make it a little bit darker like that. So we have our gradient effect on there where you're going from a green to a brown color. And once we have that done, I'm going to close that. Now it looks like we're almost done. Now comes the face. The face is going to be really easy. All I really need are 2 circles for the eyes. So I'm going to do the eyes. And I want the, oh, and it's got to be on top of the pumpkin or you're not going to see it. But I don't want the color to be green. I want the color to be black. So I'm going to make that a black color. And then make a copy. So I'll go Control J, J. So now I have 3 circles, and one of those circles is going to go for the other eye, like that. Let's move that into place. I'll move the nose down and put that eye right there, and make our nose a little smaller, just like that. So now we have our 2 eyes. Let's click off of that and see how they're put in place. 2 eyes and a nose. And now we need our mouth, which is going to be, for that we're going to select the star tool. And I'm going to draw a star. And give the star, well, I'll just put a number in there, of 8. So we're going to have 8 points, like that. And our inner radius is going to be bigger. like that, so we can get more of a punched out look. I think I'm going to put more, let me see if I can't. You can also use the slider to get you as many star points as you want. I'm going to get more of them, and I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to move it over there like that, and then size it into shape. And now we can move all of our face pieces in order. So now we have 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Okay, I think that looks good. 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. Now we have to give this effects too, so we're going to select one of the eyes and select effects. And with those effects, oh, I put it on inner glow. Okay, inner shadow is what I want. I was wondering why I was looking so weird. Okay, so we need an inner shadow, not an inner glow. I don't want this thing glowing. Okay, that needs to be normal. This needs to be gray. This is the color. And then the radius is going to be 10. 10. And then an offset of 4 or so. Intensity of 58% or 60, it really doesn't matter. And so now you can see your shadow, and you can adjust it whichever way you want. See the shadow? I don't really want it to be, too big or too intense, but I think I'm gonna, let's turn it up. Oh no, that's not good. So adjust it around. All I want is a cutout look. That's all I want. So that's what I'm adjusting these sliders to try and get. And I think the angle is exactly what I want. I want it to look like I can see that over there. Now that I have that, I am going to close the box and click out of that. And there you have your little shadow, not too big, not too small, just right. And we're going to do the same thing that we did with the other effects. I'm going to click on the FX. I'm going to move the FX to the next eye. Oh, that's the nose. And I'm going to move that FX up so we get the other eye. And then I'm going to move this FX up until we get a shadow for our mouth. Now we need to do one more thing. This pumpkin needs some eyeballs. So I'm going to click on the circle tool again, and I'm going to make a tiny little eyeball, and I'm going to fill it with yellow like that. And then I'm going to move it over here to where it's right there. Make it a little bit bigger. My last pumpkin I made was cross-eyed. I want to try to avoid that. And once again, I'm going to add an FX to this one, and I'm going to do another 3D. So I'll do a 3D for that one with a radius of about 18. So we'll go up to there about 18 or so. It doesn't have to be exact, so I don't think that. Just so that the eyeball looks like it's rounded. And that's all we're going to do for that one. And then I'm going to make a copy of this eyeball, so I'll go Control J and move that eyeball over until we get his eyeball over here. So now we have our pumpkin that has a 3D look with a gradient on the stem and with a shadow on the eyes and shadow on the nose. I'll group these all together so we can move them around. Click on the top, Shift, and click on the bottom. So we're collecting all those layers and group them all together, and we can move this around in one piece. So that is the last pumpkin. You can now make your own pumpkin styles now that you know the basics. I'll post some of this Halloween stuff on my Buy Me a Coffee page. Remember to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to stay up to speed on when my next video drops.